Ayy, done sparing you hoes. Talking all that big shit, but ain't doing it though. And I really ain't fucking with niggas. Had to clean it up and free me a couple of niggas. Ayy, done sparing you hoes. Talking all that big shit, but ain't doing it though. And I really ain't fucking with niggas. Had to clean it up and free me a couple of niggas. I ain't got a point to prove, I'm just killing shit. In my natural habitat, come through drilling shit. Make them get a feel of it, yeah, I could bet a bill on it, huh? Hold on, wait, look. I could bet a mill on it. Throw somebody in the ring and I'ma take it. I'm really made for this shit, you can't fake it. Trying to figure out how I'm up, you can't take it. Bitch, I'm a star and these hoes is just basic. I've been that girl, so just know that it's in me. The way I'm finna act up, I might just win me an Emmy. The way I'm finna turn it up, you might just need you a semi, eh? You might just need you a blicky, eh?
Yo.
It's okay.
Episode 20.
Is it episode 20? Wow, we're doing really good.
Already.
We're doing this thing.
Oh, wow.
Episode 20.
20. What's up? Episode 20, Cutty Convos with Aaron, Shayla, and me. So,
And who are you?
and me, I'm Adam. I am with
okay.
Rebel Status.
Gotcha, okay.
Okay,
Say
cool.
that with your chest.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually have another good mic too, but I don't know why I use this one.
Oh, it still sounds okay.
I know, I like it. I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah, it sounds cool.
I'm not going to change it out.
So, I guess we can just start with, how do you feel about the show yesterday?
The show was amazing. I'm going to put some clips in the podcast, show people like how the show was. I took some recording of Neftafaro. I'm glad that he went up there. I've always wanted to see, you said you used to go watch him back in the day.
I used to go to, I've been to like maybe 6 or 7 Neftafaro shows, and I used to go like all the time in Oakland and San Francisco, and it's really cool because now I've like worked with him, and now he has that chain too, which is fucking funny. But shouts out to Neff.
Oh yeah, so basically what I was trying to do was the Rebel Status chain. I was going around and asking people to take a picture with it. And then I asked Neff if you could take a picture with it, and he said, "Can I have it?" And I was like, "All right."
Make sure, yeah.
If you put it on.
Yeah.
He put it on.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
That
And
was
we talking about
definitely
Stunna Man's birthday event.
Yes,
that
it
we
was Stunna Man's birthday. Yes.
It was his birthday.
Happy birthday to Stunna Man. That was
Happy
fun.
birthday.
For my kid in the hood, fuck boys in the pen. Wait till I go the truth, I'ma lie to her ass. Wait till my baby mama see it, swear I wasn't shit. But I'm a father already, you see it, say I'm yeah. Fuck the hoop drink, I am way up a pool full of weed and I'ma take a swim. If she ain't texting about no money, I ain't reading it. We get some head and I'ma beat it. Ballin' like baby, these bitches, they wanna have my baby. Nah, fresh like Mandy. That's why I fuck niggas can't stand it. Bitch, I'm excited. Bitch, I'm excited. Bitch, I'm excited.
Well, introduce the guest.
Pack out. We did. It's Shayla. Shayla with Ella Shantae Poetry. She does her
I
own
have
poetry
a little
page.
poetry page. You know, I be a little creative here and there.
Do you do open
I have done a little like open mic. Yeah, I do a little like stand up poetry.
Nice.
That's what it's called. I've done it a few times. I've done it a few times in Oakland. It's been fun. It's hard. It's a little scary, and like I really need to prepare a lot because there definitely is a community of like poets. But I'm in like a Poets of the Bay group. It's predominantly Black and brown, which is really cool. But yeah, no, the poetry scene out here is where it's at. I will say that.
It's on and popping.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do another one soon?
Probably,
We're
yeah.
talking about this.
I know. I need to like tap in. I just been kind of like busy, like, you know, moving and stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's events all the time, especially in Oakland. I don't know about a lot in San Francisco, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know that many.
I don't know if I've ever been to one here. I've been to a couple in the East Bay, like a couple in Hayward.
Okay.
But I've never been to one out here, so I'm not too familiar with it.
Yeah. Well, I'll let y'all know if I have a little something going on.
Rebel Status.
Ooh, that
show
might be
with
fun,
poetry in
honestly.
between.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah,
What was
that
the
would be
show
fire.
that I remember you did a vending at a show and they did poetry in between the sets?
That's
Oh,
Ty.
that was
Just
the
Ty
bottom of the
always
hill,
does that.
though.
Yeah, Ty
Bottom of the hill.
invites this girl. I can't remember her name. I wish I could. I feel like
remember.
I think it's Tiff, but I could be totally wrong. But she does a really cool poetry set where she talks about like basically like relationships and like basically like usual sexual encounters and like
Yeah, she's
how
funny
she-
with it too.
putting them down.
I remember
which
when
is
she
pretty
was
funny.
when she was talking about that, and I was just dying. I was just
Yeah,
like,
it's
She's
hella funny.
hilarious. No,
That
she's
was
really
really funny.
good.
I don't know if you've seen, but It was at one show that she did. Someone had brought in a guitar, so they just started riffing for her. Like they started playing guitar.
Yeah, that added so much.
It was so great. It was funny as fuck.
Yeah.
She's a super talented poet. I would definitely
Spoken
like to see more
word.
like that. Spoken word, yeah.
What are the different styles of poetry?
I don't even know if I could answer that question. And there's like different writing styles, there's different spoken styles. Like it really just depends. I don't even know if there's really that many. I could be wrong. I don't know if there's that many different like actual genres, but yeah, I think it just really just depends. There's like, there's just so many different ways to write poetry and to like also speak it. Yeah, there's just.
I feel poetry goes hand in hand with like hip hop and stuff, because I feel like a lot of the stuff they're writing is poetry and learning how to rhyme.
Apparently, rap stands for rhythm assisted poetry.
It really does it?
Apparently, that's what I've always heard.
I
my
believe
entire
that
life.
because I think like I've even had some people around the Bay come up to me when I tell them like, oh, I do poetry. They're like, oh, cool. Well, I make music. Like we should get together. We should work together.
Yeah.
Because like that is a part of making music is especially the rhyming, which I loved. I do poetry that rhymes because I like it. Some people think it's corny, but I like it. But some people don't do that, and so that's what you're talking about, like different styles. Like some people don't rhyme, some people do. There's like modern, poetry. There's people who use like. What'd you say?
Haikus.
Haiku. Yeah, that's
Think of Avatar when like Sokka was like, and I'm Sokka. Yeah, I rocked it. I don't remember what he says, but something like that.
I don't remember, but that is a good one. But yeah, so it definitely is a part of it. It's a part of making music. And if that's true, that's really cool.
It's a huge part. I mean, that's like 50%, obviously.
Yeah,
That's how I envision like the early days of just like, poets just starting and learning and like rhyming
like
and putting it in
and stuff.
together.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably been around for, generations of different styles of music, but it just the way it formulated into hip hop and rap and
I mean, before that, like scatting and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I mean, even Shakespeare wrote poetry, and he had plays and shit, and like like they had songs and stuff. So I think it goes back a really long time.
So the event we're at yesterday was Cinnamon 02's birthday, and so that was a great event. So, but it was really cool to see you vending there.
Yeah.
How was that opportunity?
It was honestly really fun. It was great. Shout out to Aft because he kind of gave me the layup on it. Afterthought. Yeah, he asked if I wanted to vend for it, and I was just like, yeah, what the fuck. And
Absolutely.
it was probably one of the bigger events that I've vended for, especially with like how engaging the crowd was. Like most people came up and like had something to say to me, or were like asking for like advice, or like it was just
questions
so many,
like about
so many
is it like are you in the Bay Area?
Yeah.
Like are you in the city?
There's this dude, it was pretty funny. Not like he'll see this, but it was like this like white dude from Antioch, he said, and like he kept like saying like, yo, let me get something for free, like I can put you in the malls. And I'm like, why would I don't care about a mall, bro, like it's all online now. And he was like, bro, think about how much money goes into the malls. And I'm like, goes into the malls, don't come out. Like he was like, if you give me a discounted rate, like I'll take all this right now and I'll sell it. And it's like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that.
It was a little weird.
Yeah, he was pretty weird.
But the rest of it,
cool.
I mean, like, and I've vended with you a couple times where I just like kind of hang out, and I do think this was the most interactive crowd that you've had.
Yeah,
and I mean, like you were like those Lettermans, everyone was interested in those Lettermans. They were wanting more of the colors. They were really, so yeah, I just think it was a really good event for that. People were excited to be there, and it really showed.
Yeah, definitely.
This was like one of the first events where, for myself, people like recognize me and I go say what's up to them.
Yeah. How did that feel?
That felt pretty cool because usually I'm the one that goes up to everyone and say
and you're like, what's up?
Yeah.
I reintroduce myself because I met people a lot of times, but I understand, like you only meet people so often, so it's never like big and like, oh, they don't remember. Like I never really cared, but this time I was like, oh shit, I didn't even know if people like recognize me.
I thought it was
Honestly,
funny.
yeah.
So that was pretty fucking cool.
I just thought it was funny because I overheard at one point Taheen was like introducing you, and he's like, he's the podcast guy. And then he was like, oh, like it was just funny to hear that.
That's
Taheen's
cute.
always dope.
Yeah, I love Taheen.
Yeah, next week is Carnival, so that's like his thing. Like he performs in it. And so last year I saw him when he was practicing.
He's a drummer for it, right? Usually does like
Yeah.
I went
percussion.
last year. It was really nice last year.
That was amazing. That was my first time ever going. So
Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same
Yeah,
year.
I went last year for like
I
10
hope
minutes.
the weather is good because the weather was amazing
last year was great.
Yeah, I don't know if
Great.
it'll be that great this time, but
Probably
we'll
not.
see.
I hope so. I hope it clears up, but
You never know.
It's funny because it's like perfect in the East Bay, but
Yeah,
San Francisco, it's super great.
I know Oakland weather is top tier.
I
Yeah,
know.
and
It gets
Berkeley
warm
too.
and then it chills off. Like
It's perfect.
Hayward stays hot. Like I used to live in
whole
Hayward,
time,
it just
yeah.
stays hot. But then it cools off like around like 7 or something, like later in the evening. But like I feel like Oakland's weather cools off at the right time.
Yeah, yeah.
It's perfect.
Buster's Lake always, a nice little bit about a amount of wind in
Yeah. I do miss it a little.
Oakland.
missing out,
Well, we're
yeah.
going back today, so
It's not. I don't know how sunny it's gonna be over there.
I think it's so.
Did you ever move back to Oakland?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I'm originally from like Seattle, and so it's so funny because Seattle has better weather right now than San Francisco, and that makes me I'm a little.
jelly?
I'm a little jaded about it.
Everyone always says Seattle has the worst weather.
It does for most of the year, but once that summer hits, girl, it is prime time, and it is really nice. But it's only for like a few months, so it's very short lived. But yeah, I mean, when I moved to Oakland, it's just like the sun comes out sooner, and then it's hotter for longer. So like that's really nice. I do really like Oakland's weather, and I lived there for 2 years. So yeah, I probably
I
go
was
back.
I was working at the bar and some guy was just talking shit about like downtown areas and he was like starting to talk shit about Seattle and I was like, I ain't trying to hear it, man.
I ain't trying.
I already know how political. He's like, I'm from Florida, and he was like, I was like, I already.
You already
Whoa.
suck.
I was like,
Okay.
I already know your politics.
Sir.
Like, I'm not trying to entertain this.
Sir,
Did you guys
thank
see?
you.
Just
like-
I think it was just today or yesterday. The NAACP like issued like a huge warning for like Black, Brown, and LGBTQ folks, and they're like, "Don't go to Florida."
Honestly,
it's horrible
that's
there.
yeah. It's
starting to get scary,
dangerous. Like
Yeah.
it's you are put in harm's way there.
You
That's
hear that,
just
Ron
factual.
DeSantis? Fuck off.
Yeah, that's actually true.
So,
that man's on a mission.
They just passed a bill, so they did it where they're outlawing any employer that hires knowingly or unknowingly hires illegal immigrants, and
Oh,
so
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're
That's
gonna
really-
fine them. But one of the harsh penalties of the law is that if you recommend someone for work, you could get a felony. if
Wow,
they're
for
illegal.
just like recommending your friend who's
yeah,
not
yeah.
a
So
citizen.
you could get
That's
That's
so
fucked up.
so
horrible.
they're talking about how that the impact over there in the economy because there was a county in Alabama that did the same thing. Within like a couple weeks, they reversed it because no one wanted to work the field.
Yeah, exactly.
and they
For
couldn't
real.
get.
I've been
people
seeing
to
that
come in.
all over TikTok. It's like empty fields, or it's like white people trying to do it, and they're going like way slower.
Well,
than
it's because they're saying they estimated that 60% of the agriculture workers in Florida are undocumented.
I believe that.
So,
yeah.
Well, they
they're
do
also
that on
getting piss
purpose,
poor
though.
money.
Well, yeah, no, they do that on purpose. Like, I mean, I remember in school we talked about it, and I remember like there's like this common idea of like, oh, well, the immigrants are taking our jobs and da da da. But it's like, well, for one, people don't really want to be
Want those
working in those
jobs.
conditions,
Yeah.
and also the U.S. wants people who are undocumented because they don't have to give them health insurance.
yeah.
They don't have to pay them a living wage.
Exactly.
They don't have to do anything. It's like you're
the-
shit lucky to be
it's
here.
the unspoken part of capitalism
Absolutely.
that it's supposed to be like you're supposed to say these things to get outraged so like people in your base could like
Absolutely.
it, but in reality they don't really do it
Do any of
because
it. Yeah.
Exactly.
it's
So-
money taken
That's
out.
like that same thing. I don't know if you've seen this guy. It's a little different, but this guy goes to pro-life rallies, and he goes with like an adoption paper, and he'll be like,
Yeah.
so like you don't want like
That guy's funny, though.
yeah, you don't want aborted babies, like will you adopt one? And they completely ignore him.
They do
And it's
ignore
like,
him, or he'll be like, "So how many children have you adopted?" And they're like, "Oh well, I've
0.
never adopted it myself, but I think you should." And then he goes like, "Everyone," and like no one's ever adopted anyone at any of those rallies.
exactly.
It's super fucked up.
It's
I
just
see that one's like really fucking funny.
it is. He is funny, and I think it's kind of nice to put a little like humor onto it because I think what happens a lot, and even like having like podcasts like this about people really shy away from politics, but politics affect us all. Like it's a really real life thing, it and affects us all differently, and like. And so it's just something that we do need to talk about. And so having that little line of humor, like having those, I think that is a way to kind of get to more people and be like, damn, like, yeah, like, we got to make a little bit of light out of this horrible
well,
fucking situation.
One of them I watched, I don't know if it's the same person, but he goes to those rallies or they go to the rallies and then they talk to the people because they're like talking about abortion and all that. So he's like, all right, well, free universal health care for
Yeah.
children.
For real.
For
free,
real.
free child child lunch and all that. They're like,
They
well,
have none
no,
of that.
well,
They're
that's-
actually, wait a
that's-
minute.
Wait, they're like, no, that's the parents' responsibility.
They're,
Like,
you know,
it was the funniest thing when he tells them, and they just like right away, like just like no.
Yeah, for real.
it's just really disheartening, honestly. And it's so funny because, like, I mean, I've been talking a lot to Adam about this, but I work in like nonprofit space, and right now we have this whole DEI conversation. So DEI is diversity, equity, inclusion, and they're trying to put it in these initiatives. And like, there's so many in my company, even people who are like supposed to be really like social justice oriented are like, whoa, I don't think we should talk about race. And it's just so interesting because there's like so many different understandings. Like, everyone has different perspectives and like life experiences, and I think it's just important that we all like challenge our own ways of thinking so that we can all like at least just have conversations about it. But we can't even have conversations about it with some, like Florida's like, you can't even talk about it. You say CRT and people are like, that's Satan. So
it's just like people have just made cultural issues the center of politics rather than the real issues at hand.
True.
And so a lot of this stuff is only politics that you could actually actually fight over in first world or countries like United States. Like, other countries don't have this opportunity to do this because they're just trying to survive.
True.
You know, they're trying
So
to, you know, they're trying to make sure, because you can't have this type of political in this situation. So I feel like it's out of privilege that we're able to even be in this position.
True.
And then so now people are running off that, when reality there is still a lot of people in the United States that are suffering.
Sure.
There's a lot of places in America that are third world countries.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's true.
So it's like-
Louisiana,
Florida. I mean,
Florida.
I think that's another thing too, is like what state you're in. Like, we're in California, and it's very privileged to live here in a lot of ways, you know, compared to other places. But then if you compare it to like other countries that are actually quote unquote developed like nations, and it's like, damn, we still not doing that good.
I know,
but-
like, I know California gets a lot of hate and stuff, but California you really don't ever see cities that are in decay as, like, if you go to like St. Louis and you can see like the urban decay. Detroit, you can see the urban decay, like the rot of like society has left them behind, and you can see like industries that had left and people had left, and it's like you can see the
like more predominantly it happens
you can
more
see
there.
like the poverty more. There is areas in California, like, where there is large homeless encampment, and there is
part of it.
Yeah.
and then
San Francisco too,
and then
yeah.
there's parts like, say, Oakland, where you could tell where there's no funding in the area for, like, the roads are all messed up and stuff like that. But it's like you really don't see huge areas where it's like the buildings are all just like tore up. Because if you ever look in I think it was like the 70s in New York, you know, buildings look like they get hit by a bomb, and like,
they didn't they
was
didn't do
crazy.
anything to
Like,
them. The fires.
So like you really don't see that out here, but at the same time
You still do, though. You still see a lot of abandoned buildings that have, like, they don't do anything with them. I think it's just like a wealth distribution problem.
Yeah,
like, we love catering to like these billionaires and millionaires who, like, you know, obviously bring the city a lot of money, but it's like, okay, well, now there's like 20,000 people like sleeping out on the fucking sidewalk, like, and that's how they have to live. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like we have such an excess amount of money that it's like a billionaire's not going to notice.
Who's we though? Because I don't have an excess amount of money. Are you talking about
not us.
California?
No, I'm talking about the people that California like caters to.
I mean, California makes like the most money. Like, I think it's the most.
We could be its own. We could be our own.
Sure.
Economy,
Yeah. Exactly.
But
it's really interesting.
if we did that though, then I mean, they definitely cater towards a certain type of crowd. And what people don't like, what people don't realize is that rich people, they talk about how California, high tech, everything. Well, rich people love to live here, and they love to have businesses in other states.
They do.
They like to have their permanent residency in other states, but they love to have a house here.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so they might
Exactly.
talk about how they might be the ones talking about how California is awful. You don't ever want to be there, but
California's
at the same
in a
time,
hole.
That's crazy.
in the same time, they have a house here. You know,
Yeah,
They have
exactly.
property
Yeah.
here. They own rich people love owning businesses.
For real.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it generates them more money, and like owning a
there's
house.
there's a reason why they choose this economy to
Sure.
try to own stuff in, because it's like they know the areas where you generate
Sure.
Yeah, the
most
most
amount of
wealth.
The most
yeah.
wealth, yeah.
I just seen a magazine. I think it was Time magazine, and they were like, it was San Francisco on the cover, and it was like downtown, and it was like filled with like grass and like moss everywhere. And they're like, "Is San Francisco getting left behind? Like, are they becoming a third world city?"
What?
And then like it's like someone put like quote tweeted it, and they put, "These are the houses around the buildings that you just put, and they're all worth like 3+ million."
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's like, how can you say that?
Well, I know they say that, and it's like try to rent a place here.
Yeah, literally.
We ain't even started talking about the rent here because that's
Ridiculous.
outlandish.
Yeah.
is the rent.
Well, Seattle
house.
is expensive.
Seattle's also, but it's a little less so. And I it's so interesting. Like when I first moved here, and I came to San Francisco. Like Seattle's also very much a tech city, but it's a younger tech city, and it doesn't have the culture and the community and the history that San Francisco has. And you can really see that when you come here. But the rent, yeah, it is going up, but it is a little cheaper to live in Seattle than it is to live in San Francisco. I'd say.
When I visit, I love Seattle. I loved going to a bar and getting a Rainier and a pickleback for like $5.
Yeah, Rainier
What's
beer.
in a Rainier?
It's
Oh,
a
Rainier
beer.
beer.
There's a mountain called Mount Rainier, which is like my favorite.
It was like a tall can, and it was like super cheap. And
They're
I was
cheap.
like,
The Rainiers are cheap. Yeah.
and then I went to there was like I hit up these 3 spots. There was a Filipino speakeasy, and right
Okay.
across there was like a pie bar, and next to it was Speckles, which is a duck theme bar, and just
It's cute.
themed
Yeah,
bar?
they
Yeah.
got some cute stuff.
it was like. I don't know. To me, the weather was great. It didn't rain once. Like,
That's because you went in the summer, huh?
Summertime.
That's
it went the end of April.
oh, really?
I got
So you got lucky.
summertime.
You just
Yeah.
got lucky.
I got
then.
lucky when I went. And I was like, "Oh, this place is beautiful." But
Oh,
then
it's so green.
just like the traveling around Seattle, like the using the public transportation they had was actually
It's
really
pretty good. Yeah, it's comparable to San Francisco. I maybe even better. I might argue.
Honestly, it was not bad. It was really good.
We
'cause
don't have anything like the bar. We have like a little light rail train.
that light rail from the airport took us all the way to where
yeah,
we needed to
you've been
go.
on the. Yeah.
And then
It's
we
cool.
went to like this little areas or this little like the districts or towns around Seattle.
Yeah.
And then we would travel to like one of the islands, and then you see how many islands that Seattle
like
has and how much
Bainbridge,
water
yeah.
you guys have, and the like lakes. Everything was super nice, and
It's really nice. The water is cold, but one of the things I do talk about, and I love the Bay, and anyone who like asks me like, oh, how do you like it here since you moved? Like, I do love the Bay. I think I found my people here, and Seattle doesn't have that same sense of community. It's harder to make friends and make it like a community in Seattle than it is here. But what I will say is the water there, like, yeah, you can swim, and I always make this joke because when I first moved here, I was like, oh, I'm gonna be living right next to Lake Merritt. Like, I can live like right next to a lake I could swim in.
Oh, you can't swim in Lake Mary.
I moved here. I was, yeah, they got me. I was like, damn, okay. And everyone's like, yeah, laughing at me because they're like, yeah, girl, you can't swim in Lake Merritt. And I
You
was
go
like,
to Lake Chabot.
There you go.
I ain't even heard of that. Where's that at?
It's over like up in Berkeley, isn't it? Like Berkeley.
I swim in Lake Chabot. That
the
sounds
the one in
cute.
Berkeley, like they have like a man. I don't know if it's man made, but they have.
I think it
It
is.
is, yeah, you
It's
could-
over
I-
by Charles' house.
You could swim in it,
Oh.
but there's a while where you couldn't swim in it because it had like dangerous algae.
Oh, yeah, sometimes that happens.
It's a little icky, but
Yeah.
I mean, someone did just swim in Lake Merritt the other day, and they were covered in peanut butter and like some sort of shit. It was weird. Some weird white
Head
kid.
to toe peanut butter,
It was
and he
hella
hopped
weird.
into
You're trying to
Lake
get
Merritt.
licked by a fish.
Yeah, I think
For real.
so.
Yeah, I think that was his
I
thing.
think that was the
Lucky
point.
there's no snapping turtles in there.
Oh yeah,
Bro,
girl.
there was like a shark in there.
It was a leopard. It was a leopard shark.
Yeah.
Leopard sharks ain't gonna get you.
Still, I'm like, what the fuck?
There's certain sharks that their mouth and teeth are too little. They're
To
not
be
gonna get
getting
you.
Yeah, I guess that's
Oh,
true.
yeah.
But
Do you remember last year or something? All the fish like died in the
well,
Lake
because there was like
Merritt?
a salmon, like a salmon's got like they got stuck in there or something like that.
No, I don't think Lake Merritt is connected to anything else.
It is. No, it is.
The water-
how did
water
you get
comes from
fish
the
in
ocean.
there? Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
It's-
they plant. People plant. It's man-made.
It's a
I don't know.
saltwater lake.
Oh, I didn't know that. See, I'm
Yeah.
learning new things. I didn't even know it was connected
Yeah,
like that.
it's a so they have like a brackish, so like where
Oh,
the
okay.
the salt and the fresh meat, and then they have like
Interesting.
so you could get like saltwater fish could end up in the lake.
That makes sense.
And so that's why you get the sharks and you get the salmon. You get like other
cool.
fish.
Stingrays.
Yeah.
Stingray.
Maybe he was
Stingray.
going fishing.
Maybe. Yeah.
Well,
took
People
a look at
fish
that.
right there by Lake Merritt because there's like
Yeah.
a bridge and people fish off right there. But it's like
I don't know if I'd eat that fish.
I wouldn't
out
want to
there.
eat that.
Yeah,
No, you get-
exactly.
a little different.
Yeah,
But
the fish.
where do you fish or not fish? Where do you swim at in Seattle?
Oh, there's
lakes?
tons. I grew up around lakes. Around Washington, you can swim pretty much any lake. There are some that are dirtier than others for sure. I'm not saying everything's clean because it rains so much though. Like it just clears out the water, so you can Green Lake is a really popular one that I've been to. I'm hoping that we get to go this summer because I'd like to go back and visit some family. And it's perfect time.
Your parents live up in Seattle still?
Yeah, most of my family, all of my family actually lives in Washington
How did
State.
your family end up in the Pacific Northwest?
That's a great question. So my mom's actually from England, and they came here. My mom and my grandma probably when my mom was like 11, and then my dad is from Louisiana, and they just happened to move. I think one of my aunts moved to Washington first because she wanted to get out of England, and at the time they were really dirt poor, and they were like potato pickers in England, and so they moved here for a better life. So yeah, and that's how we ended up in the Washington area, and then pretty much lived there ever since. I was born and raised in Washington. Yeah. I'm a first generation American, which is really interesting because, my mom is white, so there's that element of being a white immigrant. Is
European.
Yeah, she's a European immigrant.
It's Tuesday, isn't it?
Yeah, I grew up with accents. I grew up eating English food.
Wait, so your mom has accents?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, my grandma for sure. My grandma, she lives
How'd she
in
sound
Washington. I'm not gonna imitate. I'm terrible. Adam, go ahead.
That's all I can do is it's Tuesday, innit?
She has it's kind of Americanized now, but if you heard her, you'd be like, oh.
That's hella interesting. I've never met actual first generation English people.
Yeah, no, it was interesting because I kind of grew up with that being an American, obviously, because I was born here, but also having that element of my mom being an immigrant and my grandma being an immigrant really showed in a lot of ways, with the food we eat. Yes, I've eaten beans on toast. We grew up eating that. It's definitely a struggle meal. I wouldn't say I eat it now though. It's a little gross, but
I don't know. English food does not look good.
It looks disgusting. Yeah, it looks horrible.
I've seen some of the stuff and I'm just
it's bland.
It's crazy that they
not
colonized all this food, yet they still don't know how to season shit. What the
Girl,
fuck?
I've been saying that, and I think it's really funny too because
they don't even have taste buds.
That's what I'm saying.
that's
yeah.
no, that's what I'm
It's
saying.
too cold to have taste.
No, one night we'd have something hella bland, sausage rolls or something, and then the next night my mom would make collards, and it just the dichotomy of that.
sense, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be really weird.
So did you learn a lot of cultural stuff from your father's side too?
I actually didn't meet my dad until I was 20 years old, and then I got to go down to Louisiana and meet the rest of my family. And then in that aspect, yeah, I got to learn a lot more about my culture. But my mom lived a lot in the South, and I could get into it. I have a whole spiel about my mother and living in the South, and but she did kind of get a lot from Southern culture, and that's how she knew how to do my hair and things like that. But yeah, no, I think it's just an interesting to meet one of your parents later in life.
I've been there.
Yeah, it's weird.
I was 10 though, but
even that is still
12. Yeah.
Aren't you first generation too?
Yeah, from my dad's side.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Okay.
First gen from my dad's side, but from my mom's side, I'm third. So it's kind of weird.
Interesting. So where is your mom from? California?
Yeah, my grandparents and my mom's born here. My grandma, her mom was born here, and then her
Interesting,
dad was
okay.
born in Texas.
Okay. Yeah.
So I didn't realize how fortunate I was for being Latino to have grandparents that spoke English.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I
that's
didn't
a
realize
good
a lot of people didn't have grandparents that spoke English.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was just normal. So
Interesting.
they spoke fluent, and I was able to communicate with them. But my dad's grandparent or parents,
Yeah.
I never had a conversation with them because they spoke Spanish.
Interesting. Do you speak Spanish?
No.
Okay.
That's one of
Has
those
that been
things.
hard for you? If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, hell yeah, it's hell hard. But right now I have clients that I work with. I work nonprofit too, and they speak Spanish, so I have to use a translator, a translation
Stuff.
line to call through. But I understand it a lot more now,
Yeah.
so I can listen to them and I understand them. I just cannot communicate back with them.
Yeah.
That's such an American thing though. I know so many people growing up that were first generation Mexican, and literally their parents were I don't want you to learn Spanish, so you're not going to learn Spanish.
That's what it was, yeah.
It's white supremacy at its finest.
Yeah.
It's ingrained.
assimilate.
You have to assimilate in order to to succeed and do like good things. So
But
yeah,
it also comes from people getting in trouble. 'Cause if you spoke Spanish in school, you would get in
Get in
trouble.
trouble.
that's
yeah,
true
yeah.
too.
That's
It
what
is.
it was.
I think
Like,
that
they
is a big
they
thing.
broke it out of people.
That's
Right.
what they said. My dad used to say because my dad was learning Samoan from his mom, and then she eventually was just like, "I'm just not going to teach you," because like he was
Wow.
getting in trouble all the time. So
That's
it's like
so
one of those things
fucked
you lose.
up.
Does your dad speak or he understands it or?
He understands a little bit. He probably understands a little more than I do, but it's like one of those things where it's like, how many words can you pick up? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a lot of vowels and such. And
I see. I have a trouble with Spanish too because I sometimes I could pick up words and then there's word that I don't know and I'm like, what the fuck is that?
yeah, what the fuck is
Yeah.
happening
And
for
then,
real?
then I mess up. But if I know certain words, I can formulate the sentence out because I can see what they're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
So like but there was a study done that showed like people that speak multiple languages, their thought process and behavior changes on the language that they speak.
That's true.
I've heard that. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that's really super interesting. Well, actually, now it's so. Back when I lived in Washington, I was like a after school enrichment teacher. It was the title, but anyways, basically, I did like daycare after school, and at this really bougie elementary school on Mercer Island, which is where Bill Gates lives. So it was a really bougie school. Yeah, no, it was a really bougie school, really bougie. Mercer Island, literally an island. But they started to teach the kids Spanish. Like they learned Spanish and they learned English. So they started their day off like
That's
learning
really cool.
Spanish. And it's so interesting to see how it was like demonized and now it's kind of coming full circle. You know what
Hell
I
yeah,
mean?
they want their little white kids to learn
Right.
English.
They gotta learn all them
Or
motherfucking
Spanish.
things.
Yeah,
And
they
then they want to put them in immersion schools. Like in San Francisco is really cool because you have a Chinese immersion school, you have French.
Oh wow,
They even
I
have a
didn't know
They
that.
even have a French high school out here, I think.
Really?
Yeah, there's like a
Really?
French immersion
There's
school
there's a Chinese school right by our house, and it's like
Yeah.
teaches them how to
Interesting.
do
right across,
Chinese.
right across the street, huh?
Yeah, it's like
That-
Mandarin and
Yeah, so
That's
they
interesting.
there's several of them, and then I think they even have the Spanish immersion ones out here as well. So it's like it's something that Bay Area. I don't know if they had it for a long time, but it's something that people pay a lot to have their
Yeah.
kids learn.
oh yeah,
multiple languages.
that's like such a big thing nowadays. You know,
I mean, it gets you. I
Gets
mean,
you
for
ahead in
jobs, it gives you ahead in life. Yeah, for
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of things, you know.
if I knew Spanish, I could have a higher position than what I do now.
Yeah, that's why they should just teach more languages in school. I'm glad that they're starting to do that because
We're on a pause right here.
Oh, no worries.
continue.
pause.
yeah.